Welcome to the deep dive. We're not just scratching the surface today, we're really plunging into some potent strategies for building serious momentum, especially when you're starting with, well, what feels like practically nothing. Our source material, it's excerpts from Small Steps, Big Wins, Blueprinting Abundance, which is a segment from the Abundance Blueprint podcast by Naomi Sadiq. Okay, so our mission today is to really unpack this core idea, one that I think often gets lost in the chase for instant results. It's the idea that consistent, even seemingly tiny micro wins, they aren't just nice to have, they're actually the engine. They build the critical runway you need for significant and maybe more importantly, sustainable growth. We're all kind of wired, aren't we, to want that immediate, huge success, that one big break. Maybe the most reliable way there. Maybe it's paved with lots of small, deliberate steps, often steps people just overlook.
That's such a critical point about wanting the big bang. And what's really interesting here is how widely this applies. I mean, yes, the source, the abundance blueprint, it focuses on business, financial growth, sure. But these ideas, they go way beyond the entrepreneurial space. Think about improving your health, or maybe learning a difficult new skill, or even just getting through a major life change. The whole dynamic, psychologically and practically, of steady incremental progress is the same. It feels a bit counterintuitive, right? Prioritizing tiny steps when you have this huge vision. But as we'll get into, this is exactly where lasting change actually starts.
It's exactly. Building something that lasts, not just a flash in the pan. And speaking of lasting value, the source puts this strategy inside a bigger picture, their Women in Wealth campaign. It's running through August and September, honoring Naomi's mother, Shirley Ann James. And it's all about these foundational ideas, protecting what you have, building wealth, and passing on a legacy. So it's not just about quick cash. It's about a secure future. And small steps. They fit perfectly with that. And to capture that feeling, that initial spark, the source even has a color of the day. It's orange, like a sunrise, Fresh start, vibrant energy, that fire to get moving. It's actually a perfect symbol for the story we're about to share. A story of starting with nothing and building momentum, one fiery little step at a time. So let's talk about Janelle. She's a Navy veteran, and she's kind of our central figure here. After her service, she found herself in a situation many people face. She was just tired. Tired of jobs where she felt underpaid, overlooked. Always. What she really wanted, deep down, was her freedom back, the big dream. Starting her own cleaning company. Now, her task, the challenge she faced, was huge, especially when you look at her resources, or maybe the lack of them. She had 0 investors, no business degree, no team, nothing like that, and her bank account. Less than $500. It just paints such a stark picture of where she started. I mean, honestly, most of us facing that, we'd probably think, impossible. Where do I even begin? That feeling of being under-resourced, it often just leads to paralysis, right? Analysis and paralysis.
Yeah, it does. And what's so revealing about Janelle's situation is how it forces us to rethink that whole idea of needing perfect conditions before you start. Her approach, it's like a perfect example of the minimum viable product, the MVP strategy, in action. She didn't wait for the perfect business plan or a huge chunk of capital or the full team. Nope. She launched the absolute smallest version of her service possible. Why? To get immediate feedback. And crucially, to get cash flowing. She completely sidestepped those common traps, over-planning and then never actually doing anything. This isn't just about saving money either. It's strategic. It de-risks the whole venture because you're validating the idea, testing the market demand, but in a really low-stakes way.
Absolutely. It's like, just start the race. Don't just keep prepping at the starting line forever. So, Janelle didn't get stuck waiting for perfect. She took action. What was her first step? So simple. She just wrote down 3 names, friends she knew personally. That's it. Then she made them a really straightforward offer. Hey, let me clean your office this week. If you like the job, just tell people. It's amazing how simple that is. And then, for that extra touch of resourcefulness, she printed flyers on orange copy paper from the dollar store. A nod to our color of the day, right? And she handed them out at the local VA clinic. Simple, direct, super low cost, and personal.
Right. They seem like simple actions, but the genius is how she strategically sidestepped those barriers we often put up for ourselves. She used her existing social capital people who already trusted her and combined that with, like you said, incredibly cheap direct marketing. This hits that big psychological hurdle head on, the fear of starting without everything figured out, without the perfect plan or tons of cash, by just focusing on 3 names. She made the potential rejection feel manageable. It wasn't this huge, scary launch. She basically built an identity as someone who does things right from the start, tackled that imposter syndrome before it could really grab hold. It really highlights how often what we think are limitations are actually just missed chances for creative, immediate action.
And the result, the immediate payoff from these really calculated micro actions within just 2 weeks. Janelle landed her first steady contract for $600 a month. Just pause and think about the impact of that. I mean, okay, it didn't make her rich overnight, but that single contract, it gave her crucial breathing room, huge validation, and more importantly, consistent cash flow. That was the start. From there, she just reinvested slowly, carefully building the business, one small, deliberate step after another. It's such a powerful example of how starting small and being incredibly consistent adds up.
Yeah, and if we connect Janelle's story back to the bigger strategy picture, it perfectly shows this fundamental idea, those accessible, consistent micro wins. That's what generates the momentum, and it generates the initial capital you need for the bigger goals down the line. It's not about waiting for that one magic bullet, that elusive big break. It's about stringing together wins you can actually achieve, wins that build on each other. And each small win, it doesn't just bring in cash or a contract. It gives you invaluable experience. It gives you immediate feedback on what you're doing, lets you tweak things, and it builds massive confidence in your ability to actually do it. This steady accumulation, this stacking of small successes, that's what provides the real tangible runway, the proof it works, the financial stability. And then you can take on the bigger stuff.
That is so well put. And that lesson leads us right into the core tip from the source material, which is don't underestimate small contracts. This is such a common trap, isn't it? We're constantly told, culturally, to go for the whale. The huge client, the massive payout, the home run. We tend to look down on smaller opportunities thinking, oh, that's not worth my time. But Janelle's story just shows it so clearly. These consistent micro wins are absolutely essential for creating that runway you need to grow. They prove your concept, they bring in steady cash, which takes off some pressure, and they build a track record that actually attracts bigger fish later. And this ties right back to that women and wealth principle we mentioned earlier, doesn't it? Protect what you have, move with what you already know, and then just diligently stack those small wins. Keep stacking until they naturally start to multiply.
And expanding on that runway idea, these small, consistent wins, they do so much more than just bring in money right now. They build confidence, like I said, not just in your skills, but in the whole process you're developing. They let you fine-tune your service. You get to really understand your market better, adapt what you offer, but without the massive pressure of some huge make-or-break deal hanging over you. Think of these micro wins almost like compound interest for your ambition. Seriously. Each little success, each skill you pick up, each connection you make, it doesn't just add up, it multiplies. It creates this potential for exponential growth over time. And another thing, a small contract can often be a gateway contract. It might not be the biggest check, but maybe it gets you referrals in a really valuable niche, or lets you test out a premium price point, or a new service idea, but safely, in a low-stakes way, or just build up your testimonial portfolio. That's strategic value. People often miss that entirely.
That's a great point about gateway contracts and compounding. You know, you just mentioned how society pushes us towards the big wins. Do you think our media, our culture just makes us undervalue this patient grind, this slow, steady build?
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere, isn't it? The narrative is constant. Stories of overnight success, the unicorn startup that explodes, the thing that goes viral instantly. And this creates a kind of psychological trap. If it's not instant, if it's not huge, it feels like failure, or at least not worth bothering with. It feeds that decision fatigue, that feeling of being overwhelmed, like if I can't go big right now, maybe I shouldn't even start. We tend to romanticize the destination, but we completely ignore the often tedious, unglamorous journey it takes to actually get there. So breaking free from that, it takes a real conscious effort to redefine what progress and success actually mean to you.
Yeah, that pressure to move fast, it can be totally paralyzing. It actually reminds me of something subtle in the source material. There's this mention of a symbolic breathwork moment, like a quiet pause. It's there to remind us that the pace of progress isn't the most important thing. It's the consistency. Forward motion doesn't have to be breakneck speed. It just needs to be steady. Slow and steady often really does win the race, especially when you're building something solid from scratch. And those small, steady steps, they often lead to great connections, right? Just like Janelle used her network. The source also gives a shout out to their community, mentioning Kathy Hare and the unique umbrella effect. That's an organization focused on building financial stability, empowering people. They also mention an upcoming Veterans Ball November 15th at Ruth Eckerd Hall. These are just great examples of how tiny initial connections can snowball into supportive networks, community ecosystems that boost of everyone's efforts. It's all connected as part of that building process. Okay, so here it is. The call to action from the source, straight to you, listening right now. If you've been sitting on an idea, a business idea, maybe a personal goal, anything really, just waiting perpetually for the perfect conditions, for the big investment, the exact right moment, the fully formed team. Let Janelle's story be that nudge you need. Seriously, start with what's already in your hands right now. Identify and then take that micro win, whatever it looks like for you. Maybe it is writing down 3 names. Maybe it's printing a few simple flyers yourself, making 1 phone call. Or maybe it's just researching 1 tiny piece of information you need. The point is just initiate movement. Get started. And look, if you need a bit of help getting started or even just figuring out what that first concrete step could be, the source does offer some accessible ways to connect. You can text 813-563-1314 or email info@theabundanceblueprint.org. Maybe for a complimentary policy review or some help with a microtask or even just a chat to brainstorm ideas. You can also support their work, the podcast, grab merch, or donate to Phenomenally Women Society. That's at linktr.ee Abundance Blueprint 777. And that Phenomenally Women Society, by the way, is all about empowering women, financial literacy, entrepreneurial support. These are all just examples of the kind of small steps or support systems that are out there when you're ready to make a move.
Yeah. So I want to challenge you, the listener, directly on this. Don't just sort of nod along to Janelle's story. Embody it. Think about your own goals, your own situation right now, your resources, your unique circumstances. What is the single smallest, most actionable step you can identify right now to move towards just one of your goals? Forget ideal. Forget perfect timing. Forget the big budget you don't have yet. What is the most accessible thing you can do today? Identify it. Commit to it. And then this is the crucial part, actually do it.
That is a fantastic, really tangible challenge to leave everyone with. And it just hammers home the big lesson from this deep dive, doesn't it? Success isn't built in these huge, rare leaps. It's forged consistently in steady, intentional steps. So, yeah, go take that step today.
And maybe just one final thought to mull over. Something a bit provocative, perhaps. How many potentially life-changing big wins are actually missed? Or maybe never even attempted, simply because we as individuals, maybe even as a society, undervalue, we overlook the incredible compounding power of consistent, patient, small steps. It really challenges us to rethink our whole definition of progress and what success actually looks like, doesn't it?